Just managing it. Welcome, 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 ladies and gentlemen, from wherever you are: South Africa, India, Malaysia, Australia, Europe. I sincerely welcome you to this particular session that we are conducting. And it's a fantastic session as we end the year and start a new year. Obviously, the plans for the new year needs to be put in place. As part of that, I've got none other than a fantastic lady who's a keynote speaker, international speaker, a coach on gratitude to grief courses, and her name is Anda, all the way from South Africa. Welcome aboard, Anda. How are you?
Good afternoon, David. Thank you so much for this invitation again. It is wonderful to be joining you this afternoon. And welcome to our viewers. Thank you for taking the time to invest in your own development and growth.
Right. Thank you. Thank you. To kickstart, rather than us deep dive into the subject, I know we're a few minutes late and sincerely apologize to the audience because of that. What I'm going to actually look at is, Anda, why don't you just share a little bit about your story, what you did, where you've come from, and then we'll deep dive into the core content of the subject today. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. So, my story started 23 years ago when my baby Bibi was stillborn at 9 months. I wrote a book about our experience as a family, and that has escalated into various other books. It escalated into a mastermind on finding your purpose in grief to gratitude. It led to us starting annual angel parties for children with cancer. It's led to the creation of the Arnalda Grobler Bibi Foundation so that we can make a bigger difference to children with cancer. But it's also given me such a fantastic opportunity. I toured through India with you for 3 weeks whilst promoting our book Grail 2.0, Take Your Life Right with Purpose. I've co-authored with other people recently, and our book, The Empowered Grief Journey, reached best-selling book in two categories on Amazon. So what
Fabulous.
started out
Fabulous.
as a huge tragedy has transformed my life and that of my family and many other people's lives tremendously. So I'm extremely thankful that Bibi actually happened. And it might sound quite strange for somebody to say, I'm glad my daughter was stillborn, but if you look at what she has initiated, and how that is helping other people, then I can only be filled with gratitude.
Fabulous, fabulous. Thank you. It's passing the message of hope to as many people out there. And as you know, my little acronym of hope, help other people evolve. And that's basically what you're doing. And through the work that you do, whether it's speaking, whether it's book writing, whether it's a course, grief to gratitude, it's still giving them a little bit of ray of sunshine. Thank you so much, Enda, for that. Let's just deep dive into the subject. Deep dive into the subject, and the key area I want to concentrate on is, if I can just repeat the title for people out there to really understand, it's your vision, ladies and gentlemen. Design your vision, a journey to a life you imagined. Now, many people might think, okay, this is wishful thinking. We can do this. We can't do this. But there is a scientific method in which we work through this. And as part of Mental Resilience Mastery, MRM, once you get into the process, it is inevitable that you acquire it. And Anda is one classic example of that. So, Anda, to kickstart, why don't you share what led you into vision boarding in the first place?
Okay, so the first vision board I ever made for myself was 2 years ago when Mr. David Nair said, you need to make a vision board under. Um, and I sat with this board and I had to divide it into four quadrants because we work on the four quadrants of our lives, which revolves around business and career and finance, family, spirituality, and social and recreation. And I sat with this board and I thought, what am I going to do in each one of these quadrants. And I wrote these beautiful goals for my quadrants and I sent it to David and he sent me a message back saying, "What's this? Do better." And I thought, okay. So I revised it and I stuck the vision board onto my wall together with the goals that I've created and a couple of other things. And at the end of the year, in fact, in July last year, I've reached all the goals on my first vision board. And I really believe it's because the vision board was on my wall. I could see it every single day. I could read my goals every single day. And I knew I had to take one step every single day to reach what I said I wanted to achieve in 2024. So now we're at the end of 2025. Obviously, I made a new vision board for 2025. And yesterday I had a look and all my goals on that board has been achieved. So if you wonder about the power of a vision board, ladies and gentlemen, it really, really, really works because subconsciously you know you need to take action. And when you take the action, the universe then starts conspiring to give you what it is that you need.
How true, how true. And with that in mind, and emphasizing this word vision as a key thing, but coming out of vision, the term manifestation. Many think manifestation is just wishful thinking. But what do you say? What's the science behind this? And what is the truth about manifestation?
So visualization is looking at where you are at right now and then creating a picture in your mind of where you want to be, how you
Mhm.
want to dress, how you want to speak, who you want to uh, spend your time with, what you want to do. And then when you have that picture, like Vishen Lakhiani says, imagine this huge TV screen in front of you, okay? And you see this picture of where you are at right now in color. But now you create this new picture that you want, and you see that picture on the TV screen, and you hear the noises, and you smell the smells around you, and you can really submerge yourself deeply into this vision. Doing that is only the beginning of the process because now you need to start taking the actions to become that person. And now you start manifesting around what it is that you are wanting. And then the magic happens. So, putting up a vision board, putting up a goal isn't enough. You have to take the action every single day.
So let me just get this right. And I want to deep dive into this area because it's more than just that the TV screen is vital because that's imaging it in. I don't use the word imagination, imaging it in. Now,
Yes.
there are steps to that. Scientifically, there are steps to it. What, in your opinion, are some of the steps that you would go through in getting this manifestation process before we go into the four quadrants and all the other areas?
Okay. So, first of all, you need to be very, very clear about what it is that you want because you can't build something that you cannot see.
Yeah.
So, you need to get a clear signal, send it to your brain to start finding the opportunities. Number one. Then, emotions. You need to fuel your emotions. You need to feel that joy, that peace, that excitement of your future. Because when you do that, this then becomes real for you and it becomes attainable. But also, there's something that we call visual anchoring. A vision board speaks the language of your subconscious mind. That's why you chose specific pictures and images to put onto your vision board. Because doing that, you're programming your mind for what's to come. And then once you've done that, there's an identity shift that takes. This is the key because you don't attract what you want, you attract what you believe you are. And then, of course, there's the applied action that I spoke about. You have to take the steps, and it's those tiny little steps that prove that you're serious and that is what's opening the doors. And then David's favorite word, surrender, letting go of the how, keep you in a state of that grateful expectation and not of anxious control. So those are the steps that one would follow.
Fantastic. Now, if I might just deep dive further and elaborate on one or two of these, which are key areas, the clarity is vital, obviously. Otherwise, if your mind is fogged, it goes for a toss. But the important thing to also understand is, and this is where many of us lose perspective of, we do not play enough with our emotions. I'm talking about empowering emotions, the feel senses, to make sure that you can smell that, you can touch that. So basically, the big screen that you spoke about, it's coming into you and you're actually immersing yourself into that image. That is the essential commodity that most of us need to look at. How can we do that? And that doesn't happen one time. Oh, I've done it. That's where we talk about you ensuring practice, 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 practice until it gets entrenched into us. That's the wiring of our brain. So what Anna has just capsuled in here, ladies and gentlemen, is that there's a sixth step to this. But the essential step is for you to actually get on the road and keep doing this, not wishfully thinking and daydreaming and hoping it'll happen. It does not. Manifestation is not that. It's actually putting the hard yakka, as they call it in Australia, the hard yards to get it done. And once you've done that, obviously the anchoring comes into play. You just keep repeating that process. And when you do that, fait complete, it comes into fruition in time. And as Anders said, all of the goals for 224 was completed by 6 months. And then she's coming up and saying, what should I do? Go up another six. That's the whole idea of this, guys. Life's a magic carpet ride if you know how to ride the carpet.
Yes,
Now
absolutely.
let's let's get into the next significant topic here, which is designing a whole life. We just don't design a life. I want a car. I want a wife. I want a house. I want this. I want that. No, unless you are in sync with the holistic life, it's meaningless. So, talk to us a bit about that, Anda, please.
So, you know, you have a rich life when your life is balanced.
Mm.
Okay. And I spoke about the four quadrants that we live in, that we work in. And those are the quadrants that gives us the balance in our lives. And the four areas, just again to remind everybody, is your career and your business. And here you look at your mission, your growth, your impact, then your family and relationships. Do you have deep connections? Are your connections healing and loving? How can you improve your relationships? Then we have social and recreation. That's where the fun things come in, the play, the travel, the experiences that just lighten you up. And then, of course, we have that spiritual inner world where we look for our peace, we find our faith, and we live in gratitude. And when these four areas are in harmony, then our life can flow very easily. And I'm going to try and describe this to our viewers that if you have your four quadrants on a piece of paper, and in the middle where the two lines meet, you put a little circle and you write in you, and you draw a line out to the edge of each circle and you put a 10. Now, if you go and evaluate yourself in each one of those quadrants and see where you are at, and very often, more than not, your first circle is going to be incredibly skew and out of balance. And that will tell you which of the quadrants needs a little bit more attention so that you can get to this round wheel, which we call a balanced life. And you can think of a car. If you have a tire, but the tire is flat, you're not going to get very far. And it's the same with this. You need to live a balanced life.
Excellent. Now that element of having a balanced life and the four quadrants and the little exercise that Anda just did, for the audience out there, if you want to deep dive into this, what I'm going to recommend you do is get into a website called mentalresiliencemastery.com, and you will see in there a program called You Unleash. Or you could get into one of my platforms, davidnair.net, and there is a program there, same program called You Unleash. Get into it, and there are 8 different questions, of which one of those questions that you need to master is this four quadrants of life, where we work out your current positioning of where the four quadrants are on a scale of, as Anders said, 0 to 10. And when you join the dots, you will see how regular your life is or irregular your life is. And through that, we then get you to do the exercise of what if scenarios to see how you could enhance and enrich each of those quadrants based on what you need and based on your definite major purpose. All of that put together is what this whole program brings you in sync with what we call your designed life of manifestation. I hope that comes through clear. Thank you so much for that segment, and I truly appreciate that. Let's now deep dive into some of the points of pain. How does limiting beliefs impact us?
You know, David, I spoke on Fire to Wire this morning about breaking this invisible cage that we build around ourselves because of limiting beliefs. And often these limiting beliefs come from an opinion of somebody else. And
Yes,
I'm going to share a personal story with the viewers where
please.
I was an A student all my life, but in standard two, I went to my music lesson and I came back and we had written a maths test. And when I came back, my maths test was lying face up on my desk for everyone to see. And I got 0 out of 20 because we had to do a test on one one item is bigger than the other one or one item is smaller than the other one, and what I did was to mix the two signs up and I put them down the wrong way, and I got 0 out of 20. And since that day I have believed that I
You're
can't
not good
count
at
and I
maths.
can't do maths. then then I got to university and I studied psychology and I had to pass maths because we did
Statistics.
statistics. Okay. And remember, I can't count. And I'm very proud to say that I scored extremely well in my statistics and I passed it with flying colors. How? I don't know. But now I know I can count. Now, a simple thing like that has taken me so many years to overcome because I was forced to do something that I didn't believe I was able to do. And this is what happens. You know, if somebody says, you're not good enough, that's their opinion. Don't take it onto yourself because you know what you're capable of. And rather say, I'm not good enough, change that into, um, I'm deeply capable because I have all these skills that I can use. If somebody says, I always procrastinate, and I was like that, okay, change it to, I can take decisive action today to change, and I can take one step to be 1% better than what I was yesterday. So it doesn't matter what these beliefs are. And I think everybody knows the story about the little elephant that was tied to a stake in the ground and he tried to break free and he couldn't. And then eventually, when he was 20 years old and he was 20 tons, He could have snapped that rope so easily, but because of the belief implanted in him that he's tied to this stake in the pole, he's never going to break free, he never did.
mm,
So we need to take these limiting beliefs, and I really want to encourage the viewers to make a list of 20 disempowering beliefs that they have, self limiting beliefs. Write them down and then take each one of them and change it into an empowering belief, something that is going to be strong, something that is going to build you up. And then you start living those beliefs and see how your life changes.
how true, how true. One quick way of doing that is to hang out with the right bunch of people. That's what I was taught very early in the piece. So when you have, I have a common saying, and you've heard me use this before. Those that haven't, here it is. You hang out with flies, you become a fly. You hang out with butterflies, you become a butterfly. So those that are implanting disempowering beliefs in you and disempowering thoughts in you, what do? You can either sit in it and suck your thumb and get painful about it and moan and mope through your life, or say, damn it, enough is enough. I got to move on. I got to do something. This is it. I'm going to change. Make that decision. I'm going to change. And guess what? In moments of decision, your destiny is shaped. That's the power of this whole exercise. And this is exactly how, pardon me, and it's replicating the whole process. So you need to be strong, whoever is out there listening to this, you need to be strong to understand this. To help you further, we at MRM, which is a contributionary complementary philanthropic group of individuals from different professions, I've opened the doors during the month of December and January. We are working to help people create and design their 226 life. And whilst that is being done, we're also running every Thursday evening a session for individuals to participate, and we walk and handhold them. People like Anda, there are others, Dr. Elka, Mariam, Fatima, quite a few other key players in the group who are actually out there helping individuals to design these four quadrants, work with it, and then chip at all the disempowering thoughts and beliefs and all the other factors that you have, and put together some form of a vision board that is realistic for you to work through in 226. And that doesn't mean you get that vision board like a placard and put it up on the wall like a certificate or an accolade and say, I've achieved. No, that's the starting point to what we move forward. And to help people achieve it, MRM has actually put in together what we call an accountability partner process that will walk each individual that participates in this through the year of 2026. How much is it going to cost you? Zilch. That's the power of contribution. And we will do that as many that want to have a change in their life. You're welcome to be part of this. So take stock of it, please. And moving on to the next question. Very simply put, visualization is a genuine superpower of the brain. Correct? I know
Correct?
we've spoken a little bit about it. Can you elaborate to what extent is that superpower connected to neuroscience and to rehearsals and to achievement?
Okay, so I told you Vision Lakiani says that visualization is like a rehearsal in your brain over and over and over again. So when you vividly imagine this future that you desire, both the end result and the process of getting there, because that's important, your brain starts to accept this as a reality. And this lowers the resistance and make taking action feels very natural. In fact, Regan Hillier said she woke up one day and she was completely broke. I'm not sure how many people knows her story. She then surrounded herself with people that were rich, people that were innovative. She went and attended some courses, borrowed money to do that, and today she is building this incredible retreat in Costa Rica. She's a billionaire in her own right, all because of this. And she used visualization and manifestation to achieve everything that she's got. And she said when she became a millionaire the first time, people came to her and said, "That must be so wonderful. How are you feeling? You must be on cloud nine." And she goes, "Yeah, it's really nice, but it's the way it's supposed to be. It's the way it should be." Because she had already imaged it into her mind that I am going to be a millionaire. And that is exactly what happened for her. And this is what happens when you work with your visualization and your manifestation correctly.
How true, how true. On the same story, let me elaborate another story that many of you out there would like to hear and would hear one way or another. How many of you have heard of Walt Disney? Now, I don't know if you know the true story of Walt. Now, Walt Disney, on one of his trips down South America, on returning back, the charter flight that he took back, he was just about to land in Las Vegas and he requested the pilot to just scout around on the surrounding areas of Las Vegas. And when he did that, he saw some vacant plots of dirt out in the wilderness. The plane landed. He went straight to one of those agencies in that area that had the billboards to sell. He bought land there. He was broke. In fact, he was in the range of being bankrupt, but he bought land and he decided to do something with it. And the decision was very simple. He wanted to create one of the world's biggest playground, which ended up becoming Walt Disney. Now, watch this. He didn't see the project complete. He died before that project was completed. But at the opening ceremony, his wife was out there. Newspapermen, photographers were all out there cheering for what was formed out of nothing in the middle of a desert. And one of them made this comment to his wife: "It's a pity Walt is not here to see his end product." And you know what the response was from his wife? She went like this, and it's in video clip. Walt had it in his head before you could even see it. How do I know? I slept with him every night, and that's all he was dreaming about. That's all he was talking about. So, guys, this is no voodoo. This is real science if you know the art of joining the dots, as Steve Jobs says, of joining the dots and seeing what comes out of it. And that's the power of visualization, manifestation, and at the same time using the four quadrants for it. Thank you so much, Enda. Now, and the crowd out there, let me just take you on to the next question. The boundaries. The boundaries that we need to look out for to protect that growth. And I'm talking here more the mental boundaries than the physical boundaries. The physical boundaries can be attacked later. Would you like to elaborate on that, please?
So, your mental boundaries really is the energy that you carry within yourself. And as we know, um, building boundaries is not about building walls. Building boundaries to protect your energy is particularly important because we walk into a room and we can feel there's somebody that's just sapping our energy away. And once that happens, our focus changes and we lose focus and we become distracted. But when we walk into a room and there's somebody that's really energetic and somebody that is excited and somebody that is wanting to be innovative, what happens to your energy? It lifts up immediately and you become excited. You want to be innovative. So protecting your boundaries is like protecting your garden against the weeds that grow in your beds. You need to remove them frequently. And it's the same with your limiting beliefs. So your energy is the most important thing in this whole process that you have to work with.
And those boundaries are shields.
Yes.
And for some of you out there who want to see or feel this, this is how I would image that in. If you notice, I'm just sharing stories so you can picture some of this. One of the key things that I used to watch when I was a child, which is 92 years ago, was I would turn around and love this Red Indian movies, the American Red Indian movies, and I'd watch them. And when the new um, crowd that came from Europe, from Plymouth, that landed in America, they would go out west in their horses and in their wagons, and all of a sudden they would have these Indians raid them, the Red Indians, and they would know this because they've got scouts ahead of time. And what they used to do is very simple. As soon as they could hear or see up on the hills some of these Indians coming down, they would straightaway circle the wagon. When they circle the wagon, it gives them more protection. Why? They would hop inside on the other side of the wagon and sit below the wheels and start firing at the others, at the people that are here raiding them. And this, my friend, is what we need to do mentally. We need to learn to circle the wagon internally. And when you circle that wagon, as Anders said, you create that boundary, you deflect. So whenever someone comes up with a bad thought, like, you think you can do it? Go prove them wrong. See, that's the story here. Don't fall into the trap of accepting what they say. Do this, and you see this. When you do it the first time, it's going to be hard. Do it the second time, it's easier. Do it the 10th time, wow. 100th time, it's just a piece of cake. You're just going to kill it. That's the whole process.
David, there's a client that I'm working with, and I actually
Yes.
said to her, when you wake up in the morning before you leave the house, you stand there and you blow out, and you imagine as you're blowing, this bubble forms around you. And the whole
Mm,
day you walk around in this bubble. And that's
bubble.
exactly what we are talking about, boundaries protecting your energy. And it's just like
Yes.
you say, because when you walk in that bubble every single day, whatever negativity comes your way is just deflected away from you,
Mm,
back to where it came from. The other
exactly.
important thing that we need to remember is that there's a modality that we use in MRM called NENN, no excuses, no
Yes.
negativity, and a
Yes.
gatekeeper, the little security guard standing here at your mind, protecting your mind from these 60,000 thoughts that are wanting to rush into your mind every single day. And he decides, yes, you can go in. No, you're not allowed. Yes, you can go in. No, I acknowledge you, but there's no space for you. And when you start practicing these modalities, it is actually quite incredible how your entire life changes. Your communication becomes better, your decision making is better because the quality of your decisions are so much better.
Yeah.
Practicing NENN seems really silly. No excuses, no negativity. Trust me, ladies and gentlemen, David gave us a 90-day
Challenge.
challenge. And I got to day 78 and I just lost it completely and I had to start all over again. So you practice this with awareness of your thoughts, of your actions every single second of the day. But once you master it, it is so easy because you then become so much more positive and you're able to do so much more because you're not caught up in negativity.
How true. How true. And earlier you mentioned about anchoring, and I'm just going to go back a little bit now that we've circled the wagon. I'm just going to go back a little bit and get you to talk a little bit about the magic of small wins, because I have a acronym in my head. Small shifts generate big gains, and how does the magic of small wins, habit stacking, cause that ripple effect?
So we all have these fantastic habits that we are extremely disciplined in and we practice them religiously every day. And there's this one or two habits that might not be so good for us, but we also practice them every single day.
Yeah.
And when we really sit and look at our habits, it's very often that one or two habits that are not so good for us that are actually holding us back in life. When we start working on those habits, and like I said earlier, just change 1% today to be better than what you were yesterday. And you start working on those habits that are not so good for you, and you change them 1% a day. Imagine what your life is going to be like when you don't have those bad habits anymore. Because when you start working on one habit, there's this ripple effect. Like when you throw a stone into the water and it makes these ripples bigger and bigger and bigger, same
Yeah.
thing happens when we do the habit stacking. So if you are wondering, what should I do? Write down your good habits, write down your bad habits, decide why do you entertain these bad habits and how you're going to work through them and get rid of them.
Fabulous, fabulous. And would you like to just share one or two stories of individuals that you have worked with and walk them through the actual practical exercise of vision boarding and some of the what ifs they were asking you as you journeyed through them?
Okay, so I have these vision board exercises at the end of the year, normally around the first weekend of December at my house every year for my friends. And it's incredible the excitement that they had when we did it the first time, and how they chose their pictures and how they wrote their goals and around the four quadrants of their lives. And then once it was finished, we discussed the process, that how was the experience for them. And they were all positive and excited. And so then they went home. And 6 months later, I followed up and said, how are you doing with your vision board? And they go, oh, it's on the wall, but I got sidetracked and I forget about it. And I'm going, girl, you need to go back to the drawing board. You need to start working with your vision board. And one specific friend, she and her husband got divorced about 24 years ago. They still live on the same farm. She runs the stables where we stable Andlekie's horse. And she has been wanting to get back with her husband for the last 3, 4 years now. He was very bitter. He's a very difficult person to get along with. She has just put it on her first vision board. She just said,
We are lost you, Amber. We have lost you.
can you hear me now?
Yes, much better. Thank you.
Okay. So she's put on her vision board that she really wanted to get back with her husband, her ex-husband. And she was telling me on my birthday brunch that this is really starting to happen. He's coming to visit her, he's coming for supper, they're going out together. It's slow steps, but it's happening. And that's so exciting because she's been working on this for 2 years on her vision board. And now finally it's starting to happen.
How
But
great. How great.
fantastic. It really, really, really is so awesome. But then there are other goals that the ladies have chosen that are a little bit longer term goals that they need to really put some work into. But it's important, like David spoke about our accountability process and partnering program that we've got, that you have that accountability partner, because that is the person that's going to keep you on the straight and narrow to make sure you put the traction in, you do the actions, you take the steps, you make this happen. And I think it's great that, as friends, we can do this for each other.
Great, great, great. I want to share one story that happened in a corporate scene so you get a feel for it out there. It's not just doing it at home or doing it in public platforms like the halls, the venues, but also in cultured corporate organizations. Why is this so important? Because this, my friend, is an instrument for growth, not for an individual alone, but for teams of people and at the same time for organizational growth. So, one of the things that I conduct in different companies across the globe, and in particular India, they have what they call MNCs, multinational corporations who work in India or invest in India, I should say. And they have their foreign employees who come through and supervise some of the locals. And in this particular large corporation, which is a huge printing house for the banking corporations, a consolidation of banks, they operate out of Chennai. The CEO from UK was over there, and the HR person was so at ends, wondering to say, David, how are we going to do this vision board? It will be too simple for him, and it will be, babyish and stuff like that. And I said, no, we're going to continue doing what we normally do. In every training program, I do the same thing. I'm going to do it here too. We might be a top echelon CEO, but we want him to taste it. As I always would say, taste the biryani, then only you can recommend it. So here is a case. When it came to the vision board exercise, everyone moved the tables aside and they all sat on the floor. There are various steps to get to this stage. And they were sitting on the floor and cutting pictures and pasting it on chart papers, etc., etc., etc. And Bill was there on the floor too, doing the same thing. And the HR lady was coming up to me and said, "Oh my God, he's sitting on the floor." I said, "It's okay. They're all on the same level playing field." You know me. I just take it as it comes. And ended up at the end of the session, I asked him this question in front of the whole group. There's about 35 of them in the class. How did you feel? He said, "It's one of the best experiences I've ever felt. First time I am getting back to grassroots." And in his vision board, he spoke, each of them speak about it. In his vision board, he had the site of that plant for India scaled up in the next 5 years tenfold because he was able to picture certain things that he never pictured in a boardroom where they used to just sit down and write. Mark this word, huh? As he was walking out of that whole room after everyone was leaving, I asked him, "What are you going to do with it?" He said, "I'm going to put it up on the wall at home so I can, picture this like what you were saying, Daddy." So we connected about a fortnight later and I said, have you got it on the wall? He said, "No, no, no, I've got it behind the cupboard door." And I said, "Why?" He said, I just don't have the guts yet to put it out." I said, "Hang on a minute. You heard my acronym on guts, right?" And he said, "No, tell me. Remind me." And I said, GUTS. You've got it. It's GUTS. Genuine urge to succeed. You've got that. Unless you put it on the flip side of the door, nothing is going to happen, Bill. And he said, "Oh my God, oh my God." So he did it, put it on the flip side. By the end of the year, he was tracking it. His matrices to get up the scale in profitability, in headcount, everything kept growing. Guys, this not only happens in life, it happens in corporates. That's what VMC is: vision, mission, core values. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you. And let's move on to the next element, guys. Next element, very simple. I want to ask Enda a quick question. The only question that matters: are you ready? How are you going to answer that?
I will answer that by saying the following. When you feel that there's something inside of you that's gnawing, you have a good life, but there's something missing, you are ready. When you feel you are tired of doing the same thing over and over and over and over and over again, you are ready. When you feel that you are stuck, you are ready. And when you are ready, you then start taking responsibility for your own creation. And that's the magic. When you start deciding, I've always wanted to do that, but something held me back. And now you start putting the steps in place to achieve that and you work towards that. The feeling that you get when you achieve this is something that money cannot buy. You know, I said 5 years ago when I was working with Naina, you remember Naina? Um, One day I'll have a BB foundation. But I never really thought that it would actually come true until we decided to put it on the vision board last year. And last year, BB's foundation was registered. So I don't know what more to say to you than, guys, take the plunge, do the vision board, do your goals, start working on it every single day and see how your life transforms. And once you start doing this, there's no going back because there's always a bigger goal, there's always something better, there's always something more. So your life becomes so much fuller.
So much better. Yes, good, good. I'm going to share another story, exactly what Ender did. And this happened to me in real life when I was working for a company called ARCO. I'm going to come back and talk to you about that acronym too. It's an oil and gas company, third largest in the world. I was their budget accountant and worked my way up to the corporate ladder to become a VP of the company. This is what happened. As I was journeying up, I used to be very timid, like what Andrew was saying, the limiting beliefs that people talk to you would hold you back. So I used to walk around and think and think and think and think before I'd ever settle to doing things. My boss then, Jerry Ramsbottom, he comes from Texas, and Jerry used to always say to me, he said, you got to plunge into it. I said, yes, Jerry, one day I'll plunge into it. So I came off early morning at 6:15 one morning, and I put this chair there for a purpose, by the way. I'm not just hiding. I came off and had a chat with him. He said, "Coffee's ready. Why don't you grab a cup of coffee and come in here to my room?" Yeah, we don't work in open offices. It was all not cubicles either, rooms. So my room was next to his, and he said, "Come on in, Dave." And I walked into his office, and he looked at me and he said, "How are you?" I said, "Great. Is the board papers all ready?" I said, "Everything is ready." I used to prepare his board work. And the next thing he said to me was very simple. Dave, you're flying down to Sydney. I'm in Brisbane. You're flying down to Sydney. And, he didn't even finish a sentence. My cup of coffee fell. It just dropped on the floor. And I looked at him and I said, "What?" And he said, "Yes, you're going down to Sydney. You're going to fix up this. We want to close that office. We want to retrench some of the people, give them a good severance package, and move up here." And I said, "Jerry, I'm a little boy." And you know what he did? He just walked me down the chair, and I'm here sucking my thumb. And he says, "Walk around. You're wanting to swim, and you're walking around, trying to learn to swim. Will you ever learn to swim, David, as you walk around?" I said, "No. So what I'm doing is I'm pushing you into the pool. And when I push you into the pool, guess what happens? You get your feet wet, your body wet, your head wet. And when you're wholly immersed into an issue, you then begin to learn how to get out of it. So I'm throwing you to Sydney to do the job. And if you don't know what to do, in those days we didn't have the mobile phone. He said, "You've got a handset there. You pick up your office handphone and ring me. And I'm on this side of the phone to help you." Just like every mentor, every coach is there to do that. So, guys, what we have shared with you here today is not theory, it's hardcore, practical, applicable items that you can actually put in place for your 226 life to be different. Interestingly enough, the first program that I spoke about in India was called Design Your Life back in 98 in Chandigarh. And that same thing is appearing here again today. So, guys, this is no voodoo. This is actual hardcore, real practice that you can put in place. And in closing, I want to ask you a closing question here, and then we'll finish off soon after that. Your vision is waiting.
Yes.
Okay, your vision is waiting. What's your final message out to the group out there? And how would you navigate them to do something such that we have a practice for them to apply from today's work to take away and do something with it?
So, vision boarding is not just about sticking pictures on a board and putting it up on your wall. That's part of the process and that's the fun part. But the hard part is the soul work that you need to do because that's when designing your life that you want comes into play and you design it successfully and with significance. And I want to tell everybody, every one of you have got what you need inside of you. And your dream, your vision isn't just a dream and a vision, it's a promise that you make to be kept by yourself. So I'm really honored that I could speak to you about this process today, that I could share with you my experience of vision boarding. And I truly hope that each one of you are going to do your vision board, put it out on the wall, and work on it every single day, step by step. Thank you so much, David.
Excellent. Thank you. And I'll add to that with a closing analogy so you guys can actually take this and put something in place for you. You have been given one precious gift, a fantastic gift. That's why you are here in this earth. And that gift is your breath of life. Every day, every moment you breathe is your gift given by whoever you believe, your creator, uh, your religion, whatever. But that gift of life actually does not mean you sit there in complacency. That gift of life means you put in place what you think you should be actually working towards. And to do that, I used the word just now, the company I work for called ARCO. To do that, you need to ensure you have this acronym in place for your accountability. And when she spoke about the four quadrants, she said in the center there is you, and that you is made up of ARCO: accountability, responsibility, commitment, ownership. So when you take accountability, responsibility, commitment, and ownership of your life, you will then understand the power that you have to generate what was given to you, in return, gratitude back to your creator. Guys, don't play with this. Design your life. If you need assistance, connect with us and we can take you up to where you want to go in life in 2026. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much, Enda, for being on the platform. Take care
Thank you
now.
so much, everyone. Have a good
Take care.
evening.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.